Hey everyone, and welcome to our live event. It's now a holiday tradition, AWE's end of year look back, where Tom and Ori go head to head about the XR year of 2025. Did XR go mainstream? What were the key trends and how do we feel about it? Who are the winners and losers? And of course, what to expect in 2026. Folks, this is a live event and you're all supposed to be part of this conversation. So don't spare words. Tell us where you're coming from. What do you think? Shout if you disagree. Maybe we will hear you. And definitely ask questions so we can debate between us. Joining me today is Tom Emrich. Tom Emrich is a Hall of Famer, a pioneer in the wearable community, founder of We Are Wearables over a decade ago, and a huge advocate for XR, a prominent voice for over 10 years now. I had the pleasure of working with Tom as co-producer of AWE, which helped grow the event in the 2015-2019 era. Tom was also an investor at Super Ventures, where he worked with early stage XR startups, and of course, product leader at Eighth Wall, and then at Niantic, and a stint at Meta. Now he's gone back to his roots with remixed reality. Please welcome Tom Emrich.
Hi, Ori, and hi, everybody. It's so good to be home here at AWE. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, Tom, it's so good to see you here. We have, this is kind of an opportunity to see each other and chat a little bit about the year. So let's keep doing this. You had a really prolific year with, book roadshow. You started Remix Reality. So how does it feel to actually focus on your own initiatives?
Yeah, it's great. When we first met, I was working as a journalist and community builder around wearable technology. And that was like early days when it was all around Indiegogo and Kickstarter projects that were, really showing the early signs on what putting technology on your body can do. And it feels about the same time, like the right time to go back to my roots and really focus on raising up what's happening in spatial computing at large. Spatial computing being, the technologies that are really bridging the gap between the physical and digital. And so Remix Reality is really there to help our readers maneuver through and understand what's happening across that stack and across the applications of spatial computing, from robotics and autonomous vehicles and drones to XR devices and the perception systems that power it all. I think the big aha for me was that the silos that we've been working in robotics or autonomous vehicles or XR, they're starting to blur and come down a bit. And we're starting to see how we're all working on this next wave of computing together. And so I think it's important to have that point of view and vantage point to understand what's going on across the space. So it's been cool to go back and do some writing, do a lot of learning. That's what I really love to do. There's a lot to ramp up in the physical AI space in particular. And there's always something new happening in XR, which, I've loved seeing for now over a decade.
I love the site. It's one of my favorites. I see, fantastic coverage of what's happening in industry. And it always has your touch, which is kind of really embodying our message this year, which is, combining XR with AI. The human touch has to stay in the center, and you're doing it fantastically well. So thanks for bringing this wonderful site to the community.
Thank you. Well, Ori, speaking of community, how was United XR? I see your shirt is, you're kind of repping it today.
That's right. We We are just coming back from United XR in Brussels. It's been a joint effort between Stereopsia and AWE in Europe. We basically wanted to send a signal to the European XR community, which has been, traditionally very fragmented. A lot of innovation, a lot of talent, a lot of really interesting topics, a lot of art, but very, very kind of disconnected. So we said, we need to show it ourselves, uniting forces with other events. And it worked. It was just incredible. I mean, some of our metrics went through the roof with 2,400 attendees, over 167 exhibitors. And the feedback, that was the best part. I mean, people felt like it is super diverse. You had a lot of topics that typically were not covered at AWE EU. Were now kind of front and center. And for people that maybe were focused more on policy or more on art, all of a sudden they saw a lot more of the business side of things. And that combination is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like we're truly united by XR, and it felt like it's really adding a lot of energy to this industry in Europe and maybe globally. And everybody came out of it very inspired. And when you go back to your corner where sometimes it can get really lonely, and you feel energized, you feel like you're not alone. I think that's why we're doing these events. And like I said, worked great.
I love that. I love that. I've always appreciated the EU events in particular and raising up what's happening in art. I think there's always some fantastic ways to use XR as a medium. So it's cool to hear that.
Awesome. So now let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about. We have just under an hour. So let's get started with the big question that I've been talking about all year. Actually, exactly a year ago when we were talking, I said that for the first time in almost 20 years, I have the confidence to say for the first time that XR is not the future, it's the present. It's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
The hardware is almost ready for any use case. The AI tools have added a lot. The tools have matured, and XR is going mainstream. And I've been saying it on every stage that would have me this year, mostly with agreement. But the question is, now after a year, did XR really go mainstream? What do you think?
I have a lot of thoughts, but I think you have a video on this, don't you? Isn't this where you kind of plop that in?
Oh, the race animation?
Yes. I mean, people love it. It wouldn't be an end of year tradition if we don't bring that up.
I've shown it so many times that I felt like, that's enough. Maybe we need to put it aside. But since you ask, Goopy, do we have the video handy? Can we show it up? And people,
gentlemen, hold on to your hats because we're off to the races. Apple rockets out of the gate with a bold move. They launch the Vision Pro and boom, they're setting a brand new standard for mixed reality. The fans are on their feet, and it looks like Apple's got an early lead in this fast-paced XR showdown. But look out, here comes Meta, the reigning champion. They aren't about to sit back and let Apple run away with this one. Meta teases us with details of their upcoming Quest 3 headset, and the crowd goes wild. Hang on, X-Real's making their move, bursting onto the scene with the X-Real Air Ultra 2. They're in this race to win. Wait a minute. Snap has just entered the race with a brand new version of Spectacles, adding yet another thrilling twist to this high-stakes showdown. And here comes Meta again. They're pulling out all the stops. Meta storms back, launching the Quest 3S, which is officially the most affordable mixed reality headset on the track. And wait, there's more. Meta has just thrown down the gauntlet with a prototype of their Orion AR glasses. They're pulling ahead, ladies and gents. And Apple's in the rear view mirrors. Could Meta be pushing Apple to rethink their play? Meanwhile, Sony's joining the party with a big swing toward the productivity crowd. They've got a new spatial mixed reality headset lined up, set to launch at year's end. But the race isn't slowing down, folks. HTC and Pico are stepping up. They're a little behind, but they're making up ground, pushing the limits with advanced mixed reality features. And what's this? Samsung is still stretching and warming up. They're cooking up something big with Qualcomm and Google, waiting for the perfect moment to jump into the action. Hold your horses. The trio just jumped into action with a new headset and Android XR. And look behind them, fresh off CES, 16 new AI and smart glasses were launched out of the gate. Hot on their heels comes a stampede of Vision Pro clones, galloping like they've seen the future. The pack charges ahead. Microsoft's nowhere in sight. Word is they've retired and are sipping pina coladas on a beach. It's a nail biter as we approach the final lap. Meta holds the lead. Apple and Samsung are breathing down their neck, and HTC and Pico are neck and neck in the midfield. Sony's making their move, aiming for a late game splash. Who's going to pull out the big win? In the fast-paced world of XR, it's anyone's game, folks. Buckle up. It's going to be a photo finish.
It doesn't get old.
Ooh.
I think if you sold, you need to create plushies of some of those. I think at the next AWE, people would love that.
Absolutely. You know what? That's merchandise for us. Yeah. So, folks, first, we made this. I think last update was about 5 or 6 months ago, and so much has happened since then. So, I want to see from you guys, kind of write down in the notes what are some of the things that should be added, and maybe the biggest question: should we continue to update this thing, or you've had enough of that? I already had. So, would love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things that were added really at the last moment. That was the IO/OpenAI merger with the yet unknown device that is supposed to give us kind of an AI hardware that we want to take a bite of, and that we'll know what it is when we see it, but we don't know anything else about it, except that it's not going to be XR glasses. Tom, and you know anything about that?
No, nothing. No, but I mean, I think it's great that you're sending the message that we've come a long way in XR with headsets. But when you said that on stage at AWE USA 2025, I couldn't help but think about the Gibson quote about the future is already here. It's just not, evenly distributed. And I think it is going mainstream, but I think it's going mainstream in maybe ways that we, didn't expect, or a little slower than we had hoped. In that, for example, MR or VR headsets, they are finding success with, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and in gaming in particular. And so, in that way, I definitely would say that those headsets have hit the mainstream. But when it comes to, AR glasses, those are really still more enterprise-like devices. And so, yes, it has gone mainstream, but more on like from a work perspective. And then we have this new emerging category of AI glasses, which are kind of like a cousin and a huge precursor to AR glasses. And I think those are the ones that I would definitely say are going mainstream. Like, we're starting to see some good density there and some good traction. And so I think it's a spot on message, but there's some nuance there when it comes to the different categories. Yeah,
it's a spectrum of products, and not all of or categories, and not all of them are going mainstream. What I want to emphasize is first that there's some data, some hard data that no one can ignore. And according to analysts, a product goes mainstream when it hits more than 25% of the target audience. And when you look at mobile AR, absolutely. VR, yes, with 27% of the U.S. population and growing. So we're there now. Of course, are we all rich and flush? No, it's still a struggle for many businesses. But I think the main thing I wanted to say with this is that we should change our mindset. We're not at that point, like you said, where it's like, let's wait for the next hardware next year or in 5 years. No, it's here, and there's so much we can do with it, so much content and applications and experiences that there's no need to wait. And that that's been my message to startups, old and young out there that are asking, so what platform should we focus on? Focus on what you have on hand right now. It's awesome, or let's say it's good enough. And again, you can do so much with it.
Yeah. But I think and I think that knowing the target audience is the key here, right? And so, the fact of the matter is that yes, within the gaming market in particular, with Gen Z, with the teens, like they are gravitating towards using virtual reality to play Gorilla Tag and others. And so if you're looking to target, that demographic, then your chance of success in whatever you're building is going to be quite high. We still have work to be done for XR eye-worn devices to become the next computer or the next phone, right? That's kind of like the war that needs to be won, and that's when we have more general buy-in across demographics. So I definitely think your point around the target audience and that the density within the target audience is key for the success of the startups that want to build. 100%.
And we'll get back to them. Let's take a quick look at the headsets that were launched in the past year or year and a half. Guppy, if you can put up the slide. So, I mean, I think these are amazing headsets that are in the market. And I think what's interesting is that they're all MR, mixed reality with really good pass-through, because I think there's clear realization that that's where the interesting experiences, the relevant experiences are happening. Any one specific one you want to pick out here, and just come to share a bit about your experience or your thoughts about their launch?
No, I think what we have here is like a wide mix between enterprise and consumer devices, right? Like the Vario is still a very powerful device, especially with their human eye retinal display, but it being not expected to be used by gamers versus the Meta Quest, which is a very powerful device in its own, but is priced much differently. And so I think that slide's very loaded when it comes to devices that look the same. Like if you put up that slide and you said is that one category, you would say yes, those all look like they belong together. But really, when you look at the details on who the target is, the specs change, the price point change, the quality of materials changes. And so I find that really quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in the past year, there was a bit of a slowdown in launches of new headsets. I mean, Meta really didn't launch a VR or MR headset this year. Apple Vision Pro, only had like a refresh with kind of an upgrade. Of course, there was the Samsung Galaxy XR, which was launched and just hitting the market right now. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's obviously very much a head-to-head with the Apple Vision Pro. Mm-hmm. Very similar in terms of the specs, in terms of the abilities, the target audience, with one exception that I really liked about it is the superpower for the Galaxy XR is, of course, Gemini. Mm-hmm. and the Android XR platform, which it's basically the first device that came out on this platform, and just based on the reaction from the market, it feels like it's sort of a repeat of the famous trio, from the smartphone era, where Qualcomm, Samsung, and Google joined forces for this kind of more of an ecosystem play. I think that could repeat. But like I said, Gemini is really a kind of the key new thing there with the AI capabilities, and Google Earth experience on the Galaxy is probably the killer experience right now on the Galaxy. But I'm really interested to see what happens on this platform and with other Android XR devices that we're expecting to come out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from a consumer standpoint, we need a category to come together, and we had pretty much one player for a very long time within VR and MR before others had joined, and so we now have this three-legged stool for the most part between three major players with a lot of money, a lot of investment within the space. I think in looking at Android XR and the Galaxy R device just being launched, it really primes 2026 to be a really big year for MR headsets and the MR headset ecosystem. Developers, again, going back to our original conversation, in order to succeed, they need to find their target audience, but they also need volume more often, especially in the consumer space, to be able to make money. And we now have, three plus, major players within MR with Meta, Apple, and Google, Samsung in the mix. And so I think for me, the big thing that happened in 2025 is that the category finally came together for MR headsets. And this really poses a larger opportunity for developers. And I think like as we see more developers invest again in this space, the applications will also start to drive some of the decision making around where the hardware needs to go, and vice versa. And so, going back to your point about good enough, it could possibly be that we didn't see a lot of activity in this space because the devices are really powerful and they're pretty much good enough to be able to demonstrate, value. Could they be lighter? Yes. Could they be more comfortable? Yes. Could they be even more powerful in terms of the resolution? Yes. But we have the tools, we have the devices, and at a somewhat reasonable price point, arguably, to allow for us to start to play and really show what this platform is all about.
And the market is still obviously not fully stable, but I see a lot of signs of maturity, just in terms of how the big players and the small players are kind of pushing each other to do certain things and retrenching in their strengths. So you see each company is like, we're really good at this. We have a great track record. Let's also bring that into spatial computing. And that shows a sort of a sense of maturity. Take, for example, the latest launch, which is not in the market yet, but has made quite a bit of noise, the Valve Steam Frame, which, it's a perfect example. Steam is known for, one of the most widely available gaming platforms. So that's exactly what this device is focused on. I'm kind of curious to see how it is going to be absorbed in the market next year, but I'm sure that there's a lot of Steam fans out there that would love to kind of switch from the maybe the handheld device to a headset device.
Yeah, and I love what Valve is doing with their positioning. Often I think that perhaps we're going too wide with these devices because we see the vision. We understand that they are the next compute platform. And so we want to jump to the endpoint too quickly. Whereas, a VR in particular is a really great gaming device. And so I don't think we should be afraid of saying what these devices are successful at doing at today and really, really master that. I think we need to really double down on what these devices do well in order to convince more people to want to come on board to use it, knowing that we can start to expand the use cases from there. And I think that's kind of what Valve seems to be doing, at least for their device in particular.
Yeah, let's switch to smart glasses, kind of a loaded category. I see a lot of people kind of online saying, why is XR now including AI glasses or smart glasses with no displays? They're not AR glasses. And you made a really cool comment on that the other day.
I did. Yeah. Let me see if I can remember it. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, these, yes. Look, our community has been vying for putting technology on people's faces for years now, as smart glasses are kind of our thing. And so I think it makes complete sense for the XR community to kind of own the conversation around wearables that you wear on your face. We've been very hyper-focused on it for years, and there's a lot of expertise and a lot of opinions and a lot of experience that the overall community has. In addition, the AI glasses are a real stepping stone, and we have already seen that with the Meta Ray-Ban display, right? Where you have the AI glasses without a display, and then you have the AI glasses with the display. And even Google, I think, they describe their ecosystem in that way. I think in their most recent announcement, they confirmed that they're going to have screen and screenless AI glasses. So 100% it belongs in as a talking point within the XR community. And I think this is the category that we're going to see faster traction, especially in my opinion, screenless AI glasses. I think we're going to see much faster traction with the consumer for many reasons, including price point and wearability and comfort, but also as more and more people understand the value of AI, they're going to want to bring their AI with them everywhere they go. And the one big thing that AI glasses has that is very akin to what we're up to in the XR community is unlocking multimodal AI through the use of a camera. And it's really putting cameras on people's faces and enabling the AI assistants to be much smarter by having the eyes for AI, essentially. That is, I think, going to be the killer app for these glasses. So it's a really exciting category, and as we've seen, a lot of success announced from players that have been in it for a while. And even from your slide, it doesn't even do justice. I think your video actually did a good job of just indicating how many AI glasses are out there.
That slide is from CES. So there were 16 new smart glasses that launched at CES, and since then, probably tripled the number of glasses have been launched. And again, it's like I said, it's a mix of glasses without display, with display, with AI, without AI. And there's also kind of an attempt by a lot of these, especially the smaller companies, to try to find a niche that has kind of a unique combination of the features. Some of them, do not have a camera. What? Smart glasses without camera? Yes, that's the whole idea, because there's still some cultural pushback on that. I don't know if you guys heard there was an incident at the New York subway a couple weeks ago where a woman was really pissed off that the guy was wearing the Ray-Ban display and was supposedly filming it. And she got really pissed off and basically broke those glasses. And the reaction actually on the internet was on her side instead of on his side. So I don't think we're completely out of the cultural war with wearing cameras on our faces. And so that's why kind of the decisions of some of the vendors to pick and choose the different features on those glasses is really interesting. But what I wanted to say is that, the XR has been defined as a spectrum from reality to virtuality and everything in between. So let's not exclude things that do not have one feature or another. I think we need to look at it as a continuum. And for me, what many vendors call AI glasses, or smart glasses without displays, is they kind of see what's in front of you, they understand what's going on around you, and they react to it. So in that sense, they're spatial, So I would really recommend to stop kind of singling out things or devices that are not in this category. They could be good or bad. They could be useful for certain things or not. But it's not a fight of what to include or what not. It's really all part of this whole movement that we're now part of. You started it with We Are Wearables, and now over 10 years later, we're now starting to see it come to fruition. So it's super exciting.
100%. I think that just goes across the board, right? There's a lot of talk around AI. We're going to cover that in just a bit. But this is not the time to, also be too precious with like our silos, because those walls are crumbling, and so and that's a good thing. This is actually what we want to see, because this next wave of computing isn't just one thing. And so what's happening in AI, and of course XR, utilizing AI, since day one, is very important to the XR community, just as what's happening in XR, especially in simulation, is really important for robotics, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think we're going to find ourselves like having conversations about things that we tended to not have conversations with because we wanted to stay in our lane. But I think those lanes are not becoming that are not so clear anymore.
So I have here a collection of glasses, and I want to kind of show some of them here, and maybe we can talk about it. So, I mean, first of all, they're starting to look like regular glasses. We've been all clamoring for this moment for so long, and it's happening. Here's a cool pair. which kind of has like some Groucho Marx feel, but actually this is just a charger, so fooled you. Looks pretty cool. This is Brilliant Labs. The frame, they already have a much better version in the market, but again, a really interesting approach from an open source perspective. There's of course, the X Reel, which looks super cool. A little bit still, heavy on the sides, but I think, with the Project Aura and built on Android XR is going to be really cool. There's, glasses that look totally regular, except for maybe the cameras, the Ray-Ban, super cool.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to show the Ray-Ban display, the Meta Ray-Ban display, which feels a bit big on my face for some reason. But I was telling Tom before that my daughter's Versace, which looks super cool, have much thicker frames than this. So let's not complain how it looks. I think it's really decent. And it does amazing things, right? Did you have a chance to try it, Tom?
I did, yeah.
What do you think?
The technology is just incredible, and I also agree. I think the fact that they look like glasses, this is the closest we've seen to look like a pair of glasses. I also really enjoyed going into Lens Crafters, which is where you go to get just everyday glasses, and having that be kind of like the vehicle for me to understand what this is all about and where I could buy it. So a lot of upside. I wrote an article about my personal experience when the glasses were available in Lens Crafters. And I think there's a lot of upside and a lot of wins. My only kind of caveat is I'm not a huge fan of monocular display. It just, my eye and my brain do not have a good time with that.
Yeah.
So looking forward to, using both eyes with just as fashionable of glasses.
Can't underestimate the need for stereoscopic glasses, and I mean this view, and even if it's not full AR or 6DoF, just having it on two eyes you can simulate a lot of the things that then would be a stepping stone towards full AR glasses. And by the way, before we go into full AR glasses, this is one of the most brilliant things that happen in the market. It's the wristband for the Ray-Ban display. I mean, it's obviously a little techie. It's not for everyone out there, but for those who have been looking for using more natural interactions with our devices, I mean, so much better than controllers, or also better than, just gesture interaction, which have their limitations. With this, you can signal things under the table, behind your back. It's very, very responsive. We're also waiting for the feature where you can actually write things. It's not currently in the market, but we saw some early demos of that. So I think that's very promising. And, back in 2014, 2015, when we were talking about wearables, we were talking about having like some of the gesture interaction embedded in our clothing, right?
Yeah.
So maybe at some point we'll see that even more organic on our bodies, and but it's definitely showing the way for how gesture interaction could be.
Yeah, I feel like input is like an area to play, and obviously, the EMG wristband is like a magical device. I do want to say that I miss like the joystick ring that Focals by North had with their glasses. There was something great about just having like a button. Maybe it's because, I'm a Gen Xer. I don't know what it is, but it's really nice to have something a little bit tangible to kind of fiddle with. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how different device manufacturers tackle input. One thing I would say about fashion is like, I think a couple things come to mind. One is I wish that we'd be more okay to have larger glasses, which might be, an unpopular opinion.
Speaking of larger glasses,
I think when you start to get up to a point where they actually are doing augmented reality display, you need more room. And as you mentioned, like in the fashion eyewear space, there is very large sunglasses that are out there, and so I feel like we can play with more room with our eyewear and not have to focus so much on miniaturization so quickly in order to limit the capabilities. Also, like, maybe they don't need to be glasses. Maybe they can be goggles. Like, I think that there's some things that we can play with. The second thing is that when I look at the slide that you had and all the demos that you just did, I think it's indicative of how we're not 100% mainstream in the fact that they're all black frames. If we were to see more variety in the color and the styles, I think then that's going to be a signal when we're really saying, okay, these devices have really gone mainstream. Arguably,
to their credit, actually, some of them had different choices, and I chose black, so it's my bad.
Okay, that's fair. No, I'm not judging your. I love black, so I guess, like, arguably the Ray-Ban lineup does provide a lot more choices than it originally launched with. So I think that's a good signal. But I'd be watching that. Like, I'd be watching really the fashion side to really signal the readiness and the demand that's out there for these types of glasses.
I just want to say another word on these glasses. Yet they look big, but they're currently the most full-featured AR glasses on the market. And they keep getting new content. Snappy is really pushing kind of the community to build new lenses. And these lenses are getting more interesting and better and more interactive every day. And that's remarkable. I think it's showing us the way where this could go. And as Spiegel announced a few months ago, there will be a consumer version of these glasses next year, which will look a lot more like regular glasses, so we can't wait for that. But again, I think it's more the content is it. And if we kind of quickly sum up everything that we've talked about, the headsets and the glasses, I think we're at a point where although the industry has been kind of clamoring for this like all-day device that you wear all the time, that's maybe a good goal for the far future. Mm-hmm. But I think today it's awesome to have like this idea of wearing for a purpose. You want to go and do some sports, you wear the sport glasses. You want to go out there, there's sun out there, but you also want to take videos and maybe get some translations when you walk on the street. You get the Meta Ray-Ban and so on. And same for headsets. Some of them are great for exercising. Some of them are great for watching immersive videos or spatial videos. So, and it doesn't have to be all day. If we use it for an hour or two, that's still awesome. It's a lot more than we have had just a few years ago.
Yeah, I plus 1,000% to that. I think, again, like, going back to the use case and being successful with that use case is like the most important thing that we can do. And winning over that community, like winning over the fitness or the sports community with the device that makes sense for them, or the fitness community, or the at-home fitness community with VR devices, gaming. I 100% agree. I'm glad you said that.
So folks, we touched just on a few of the glasses out there. There's a really fantastic list of pretty much all the glasses out there by Oscar Falmer. Goopy, if you could share the link here with everybody, check it out. It's it doesn't say which one is better than the other. It's really about the data. But I know Oscar probably has his own views because he tried almost all of them. I tried as well, but he's done a more thorough job. So check it out. And first of all, you can get just a sense of how much is out there right now. It's insane. And also some of the differences, some of the choices that these vendors are making. It's really, really interesting. And I think, it's only going to be even more interesting next year. So, Tom, our time is kind of running out. Let's move on to our next topic, which is maybe the biggest topic. I've kind of called it the dark horse that is stealing all the attention and investments from XR over the last year or two, and of course it's AI. And on one hand, we everyone in the industry know that AI is making XR better, faster, cheaper, easier to build. All of the above is true, and that's awesome, and we should all embrace it. AI and XR need to be combined in our world. But an even more important message that I've been trying to push out there is that let's see if you can put up the slide. Is that AI needs XR, and the idea is that AI has been kind of ingesting the entire information on the internet, and it learned language, mastered language, and it's awesome at that. But it doesn't understand the real world good enough. And in order for it to give it that, to give a kind of access to the real world through human like senses, it needs XR. And I think that's the message, especially the next one, that there's no AI without XR. It's something that we as an industry need to shout out from the top of the mountains, so that investors and enterprises and tech companies all understand that. Don't forget that AI on its own is very limited, and it's not grounded in reality. You always need to combine it with XR. It's going to be good for humanity, to always keep humans at the center. Don't let AI kind of go by itself. And it's going to make AI also a lot better.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think if you think about XR, and not just as headsets, but the complete stack of XR, especially the perception systems, I think this is where it really makes sense. I mean, let's start with like why all the air is going to AI right now. So particularly Gen AI, right? Because AI is kind of a loaded term, but with large language models in particular, it really has become a game changer for the existing devices that we use today, right? Because we could access ChatGPT or Gemini with our phones, with our computers. I think the fact that you don't necessarily need new hardware, at least from the user standpoint, because obviously you need more compute on the back end, is really what's allowing for AI to demonstrate value at volume very fast. And so there's a lot of opportunity here. It's really become an accelerant on and enhancing the things that we've been doing all along in the digital world. But we're going to hit a wall. As you mentioned, like AI, it only really knows what we've documented and what we've put into the internet. And we've been really busy doing that for many, many years. And so at a certain point, it's going to know everything about the internet, but the internet is not in real time kept up to date with what's happening in the real world. And that's where the new opportunity is. That opportunity is often called physical AI, where now the AI is brought into the physical world. Bridging the physical with the digital is literally the definition of XR. And so that is 100% bang on when it comes to AI's need for XR. And again, particularly the perception systems, the computer vision, the visual positioning systems, the spatial mapping, the semantic spatial understanding, like all of these become really important in order to allow for AI to understand what's happening in our space in real time. And it's also going to free us up from having to document so much what's happening in the internet, because the documentation will be done by the computer itself. So I love the pairing. In addition, the headsets themselves are starting to really prove to become quite valuable instruments for physical AI. Like case in point, one of the reasons why I started Remix Reality is in talking to a lot of virtual reality companies. Their solutions are being used to train robots, for example. And so, they're arguably one of the biggest growing use cases of virtual reality headsets is teleoperation of robotics, actually.
And like teaching AI how to fold the towels, like in those sort of sweatshops.
100%. And so I really love this, the marriage between the two. And I think that I truly believe that physical AI is the next big investment. And within that umbrella of physical AI, XR and the systems that power XR play a critical role.
Do you see some examples of companies that really get this message and are implementing or already kind of that combination of the two? I have, a couple of examples. John Hankey, CEO of Niantic Spatial, has been on the Slush stage a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how they're kind of leveraging all the crazy amount of data from going back to the Pokemon Go days and all the way to all the capturing that it was done since then, and the visual positioning system and so on, to train AI and make and have sort of something that he calls street smart AI. So AI really understands what's happening in the real world. And of course, it could be useful for AI, but also for humans that now can have this kind of spatial AI layer, intelligent AI layer that can help them interact with the real world, understand it better, engage with it better, and kind of deliver on that promise that we've all been talking about for over a decade.
Yeah, I think world models, like what Niantic Spatial is up to, is like a major opportunity. Niantic Spatial is going after it by mapping the real world and allowing for machines to understand the real world through that map. Another company that is also working on world models is World Labs, which is kind of taking a different approach in creating simulations of real worlds. Or virtual worlds, and then allowing for those simulations of real worlds and virtual worlds to be used either as content for 3D or XR, and also for robotics and machine simulation and training. So I think like that world model is something you're going to continue to hear as an opportunity. And there's a lot of different players that are starting to pop up that are focusing on that. One of the humanoid robots that got announced that you can actually pre-order today, which is the 1X Neo, is currently heavily using VR teleoperation for their team to be able to allow for the robot to perform, tasks like loading the dishwasher or doing laundry. And of course, this is all in the spirit of using those devices in order to train their generalized, AI model that is the brain of the robot, so that eventually when those robots get into your home, they will know how to do a set number of things. But even when the first set of robots get into the home, you are also able to do two things. One, you can use your own VR headset to teleoperate the robot, so that it can do more things because it can't do everything a human can do today. Or you can opt into basically call one of their agents to embody the robot, again, using a VR teleoperation, in order to train a specific thing. So if you have a specific task in your house that needs robotic training, then using VR, that robot will start to learn through this service that they're offering. So these are just like a couple of many examples on how these technologies kind of come together. It's really exciting.
And we can keep talking about this we will talk about it for the whole year, next year. I think it's going to continue to be the top topic, AI and XR and how they work together. But I also want to touch on a few other things that are really important to cover. One is, what we've been calling the builders, and kind of the rise of a new generation of creators. What have you seen so far?
Well, I think like what we're seeing in the builder space is especially a lot of builders embracing, Gaussian splats in particular, and copies of the world, and being able to leverage these highly detailed copies of the world in order to create, games or, 3D content. So I think this is one trend that I've been keeping an eye on is the use of Gaussian splats and systems that allow for you to be able to generate worlds very quickly using prompts, for example. And I think this lends itself into another huge trend that you pointed out earlier, which is the acceleration of creation through AI. So I think across the board, the studios, the development platforms understand that they can make XR content or 3D content easier to create by adding AI in the mix, whether that's generating 2D assets, generating 3D assets, or becoming more of like a co-developer, and using things like MCP to enable more of a collaboration with the AI to be able to accelerate the actual development or the quality testing for example.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple things that I'm noticing.
Yeah, and for me, what was probably the most fascinating and interesting this year was to see a lot of what comes out of the hackathons around the world, the XR hackathons. There've been a lot of them, just amazing projects built in just 4 or 5 days by 3-4 people, and they're so spot on, and they typically come out of a certain passion, or someone understands a certain use case or a certain hobby so well that when they create a spatial experience, it's irresistible to these users. And you see the reaction and adoption of some of these things. They're not like a killer app for the entire industry, but they're more than that for a very specific audience. And I think if we're going back to where we started with how is XR going mainstream, that's how we go mainstream, by capturing each niche and creating an experience that is so good for a certain thing that people would buy the headset just for that purpose. And that's what's happening. And the more we have of those, the more we kind of cover every single person on this planet, and then we win. Then it's by far mainstream. So definitely would want to see more of that, and encourage these builders, even if funding is still hard to get. But when you create something that is so good, so relevant for an audience, you'll be compensated. The platforms will go after you. The users will help you kind of get through it, and that will help kind of lift the whole industry.
100%. Also, like, the development tools are becoming more encompassing to different developer communities. And so we saw a concerted effort by a number of, major ecosystem drivers in adopting more mobile-like development languages that really allows for mobile developers to kind of enter the mix. Whereas in the past, it's very much been more like a gaming developer-centric focus for XR. And so I think this approach is really helpful to allow for not just more users from the output in the applications, but also the variety of different developers, whether they come from web development, game development, mobile app development. We really need to make it easy for all of those folks to create, and then also that focus on success and finding the user and being able to monetize and continue to build.
Absolutely. So we're almost at time, and we cannot wrap up the discussion about 2025 without acknowledging some of the lost platforms out there. Tom, you have a special connection to one of them. Eighth Wall, as part of Niantic, announced a few weeks ago that they will end support in the future for the product. Talk to us about that kind of journey, how it feels, and what do you think the impact of that is, or what does it reflect of what's happening in the market?
Yeah, I mean, really sad to see the news about Eighth Wall, who birthed essentially web-based AR, or web AR. Definitely that team leaving their mark on the history of augmented reality. And I know that they have communicated plans to their customers and their next steps. And so I'll leave folks that are curious as to what those are, that haven't read them yet, to go to the Eighth Wall blog. But Eighth Wall was just one, platform that we saw be decommissioned in the mobile AR space in particular. We also saw Adobe and Aero say goodbye. Previously, Spark AR announcement, I think, was actually in 2024, but the platform shutting down in 2025. And so I think the bigger thing to focus on here is that mobile AR is really changing, and this opportunity in mobile AR to develop is shifting. Of course, we still have major players in this space that continue to support creators and developers like Zappar, Snap and Lens Studio. But I think with a number of these mobile AR platforms saying goodbye, a lot of folks are questioning, what's happening with mobile AR, and is that still something to focus on? So I'm curious to hear your thoughts there on that.
Well, what do you think is happening with WebXR, though? Whether it's on mobile or broader.
Well, I think, WebXR, like the standard itself, has continued to grow, and be well adopted by a number of camps. And certainly the headsets themselves, whether it be Apple or Meta, have embraced WebXR. And so I'm still very bullish on the web as being a powerful place for XR content. And so, but I also think that there's a lot of opportunity there, actually, still that is under tapped and underutilized. Interestingly enough, we're starting to see a lot of browser discussions happening, just not necessarily in our camp, but more in the AI camp, with brand new browsers that have been popping up that are AI first browsers. I think that there might be an opportunity there for those new browsers to be totally reimagined for this era of spatial computing, not just from an AI standpoint, but also thinking about the new wave of content being 3D, being XR content. And so I would definitely keep an eye on the browser space and how the browser in particular is changing.
I see a lot of comments coming in. Really fascinating discussion. Thank you all for being part of it. We can continue talking about this and answering more questions. But Tom, before we go, any other trends that you notice this year that we cannot complete this discussion without bringing it up?
I think like the last thing maybe just to talk about is, lately there's been a lot of reports talking about how the metaverse is dead again. And with that, virtual reality tends to get lumped into that conversation. I think, for me, in 2013, in my trends post, I wrote about how metaverse was not a destination. It wasn't a virtual world for me. It was more an aha moment on understanding what this new tech stack is for the next wave of computing, which is made up of AI and XR and blockchain, and understanding that we're all working on what computing is going to be. And so my hope is that while the hype around the metaverse is definitely subsiding, we don't lose sight on what that vision of the metaverse was, which is again building that tech stack that enables for us to enter the virtual world and for machines to leave the virtual world and enter our world. And so I just find it really interesting that we're ending 2025 with kind of the metaverse being talked about. And oftentimes when the hype dies down, it also means that a lot of things are getting to work. And the real work is happening behind the scenes, which it has for many years. So just some curious conversations around the metaverse, I'm sure, is going to be happening around the holiday table at some of the tech community this year.
Absolutely. And it's part of the spectrum. It's a necessary part of it, and it will continue to develop and grow. Any thoughts on 2026? Like, what are your plans? What are you excited about? Where can we all see you?
Well, at AWE, of course, but I would say, I don't want to be too bold, but I want to say that 2026 is the year of physical AI. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about physical AI, and I think it's important for us as the XR community to understand our place within physical AI and how we can support it, what role we play in making it happen, how the technologies that we've been building all these years are, really core to the foundational layers of physical AI. And start to branch out and understand how we can support and play with others in this space that are working on autonomous vehicles and robots and other machines that want to understand the world in order to deliver value. So that's kind of like one thing that I'll leave with the crowd here is you're going to be hearing a lot about physical AI in 2026.
Absolutely. And there's some new hardware expected the next year. We want to see how the Valve Steam frame performs. Hopefully we may see more about the Samsung Galaxy smart glasses, news about the Meta Quest 4, about the what's Apple's next move. There's a lot of rumors about that can be really interesting. And of course, a lot of new Android XR based devices. But for me, again, what's mostly interesting is what people are going to do with what we have now. Let's not only look at what's happening next year, and there's so much that can be done and created. Just proving the idea that these experiences are essential, and we need them, and eventually at some point it will replace what we know as 2D computing. Any final words, Tom, from your side?
No, I just want to say happy holidays, and Ori, thanks for having me, and thank you and the team for all you do to the community. And to the community, thanks for continuing to build towards this future, and your commitment to XR. I can't wait to see what we all come up with in 2026.
Tom, you're awesome. I want to see you more here. And thanks again for your insights and for what you do with the Remix Reality and the book, which has been fascinating, and everything you've helped this community in the past over a decade. And before we go, just one word. Let's put up the slide. We have a big reveal planned for January 14 about an epic year for XR. I guess you can guess a little bit from what's written here, what it's going to be about. I wish you all fantastic holidays. Thank you all for joining. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.